All right, everyone. We're about to get started. Grab your wine, grab your tea, and meet me back here in 30 seconds.
Casey at Night will start in 30 seconds. And now, introducing Casey Carter.
For the cup, I got what you need. I got what you want. I got what you need. Tell them giddy up. I got horses in the back, trunk in the front. Exterior red and that inside buttercup. I got what you need. I got what you want. I got what you need. Tell them giddy up.
Ladies and gentlemen, Casey Carter.
Welcome. And hold on. That was supposed to be my applause. We got to get this right. Hold on one second. Where's my applause at? Oh, where's my mouse? You know what? We ain't gonna worry about it. Let me welcome you to the show. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wine and Tea Time. I know it says Casey at night, but we are transitioning. This is a transition phase right here. So we are moving from Casey at night to Wine and Tea Time. If I could ever find my mouse. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. It's on another scope. There we go. As you can see, we are now in Wine and Tea Time. This space is where grown folks gather. Uh, the wine is poured, the tea is hot, and the conversations are honest. Now, if you're here, let me explain something to you. This is not the kids' table. This is the grown folks' table. And at this table, we respect each other, we listen to different opinions, but we don't pretend. We don't go for the BS. So let's just be clear about those things up front. But tonight, we're going to talk about a few things. Tonight, we're going to talk about relationships, starting with the question that might hit a little close to home for some of you. Is it a red flag when someone refuses to apologize, even when they're clearly wrong? We're also gonna step into hip hop for a minute because apparently T.I. and 50 Cent decided the internet needed a reminder that beefs never really die. And then later in the show, we're going to talk about a documentary on Paramount Plus called The Pink Pill and the long fight to bring female Viagra to market. That's right, I said female Viagra. And we'll also talk about the battle and what it says about society's views on women's sexuality or the fact that they don't think women have sexuality. Yeah. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to our new ritual. So please, if you have, raise a glass to good wine, strong tea, and saying what needs to be said. Cheers. Now let's pour the wine and spill some tea. Starting with, is it a red flag if someone never apologizes when they're clearly wrong? Now, this is what I want to know. And I know you guys are out there. I see my friend Jason in the chat. So let's talk about this. If someone never apologizes and they know they're wrong, is that a problem? Should we be concerned about that as far as the health of our relationship? Let me give you my thoughts. So I think apologizing, not because you believe you're wrong. I think you apologize because you recognize that you, in some way, hurt the person that you were communicating with. So, in other words, I have a very strong opinion about something. I express that opinion. And somehow, in expressing that strong opinion, I have now hurt your feelings. And you tell me that I've hurt your feelings. And I basically am like, well, that's just how I feel. That's it. I'm not pausing for dramatic effect. Like that's their reaction. That's how I feel. And you on the other hand are sitting there going, you're not sorry you hurt my feelings? You're not sorry that I took offense to what you said? And of course, their response then becomes, well, no, not really, because I said what I said and I meant what I said. So, how does that sit with you? How are you feeling about that? Because I think if my partner did not apologize once they were made aware that they hurt my feelings, I'd probably feel some kind of way about that. I do. Because I'm not necessarily asking you to change your mind, change your opinion. I'm asking you to respect the fact that you hurt me, the person you say you care about. And I was sharing with some folks on social media that I taught my children how to apologize. I didn't teach them to say sorry. I taught them to apologize. And what I mean is, I taught them that if you're going to acknowledge that something was said and misunderstood, you need to know what it is, right? So, in other words, when your kids are little, you say, hey, say sorry. You can't hit Billy, say sorry. And so your child says, sorry, Billy, and then walks off as if, okay, that's all I got to do. Just say sorry. Bet. Sorry. So they didn't really mean it, which is going to lead me into the next question. But they didn't really mean it, right? So I taught my kids that if you're going to say sorry or apologize, you don't necessarily apologize for what you said per se. You start by apologizing that what you said or did hurt the other person. Because what I want you to do is connect behavior. I want you to connect the words or the behavior to having hurt someone so that in the future you recognize that's a problem. And in the future, you recognize that if someone tells you your actions hurt them, you can then acknowledge, not say what I said or did was that wrong or that big a deal, because sometimes, again, you can own what you said, but own the accountability of what you said. My friend Jason here says, a true apology would be somebody that wouldn't repeat the same thing over and over and understand that it's wrong. Yeah, I agree, Jason. That's, again, you can say and feel however you feel, but if your actions hurt another person, you should at least own that, right? Own that you've hurt someone, and therefore, if that wasn't your intent, let us be clear. If that wasn't your intent, at least apologize for that part. That's all I'm saying. Thank you. Jason Jason is a longtime fan. Was just thinking the same thing you were, Casey. You hurt the person more than your apology. Yeah. And it's funny because let me pull up. I'm gonna ask you the second part to this question, which is, and Jason, you and I talked about this on social. Be honest. Which is worse, someone who refuses to apologize or someone who apologizes but never changes their behavior? And I posted this question in a couple of different places. And I just wanted to share with you some of the responses that I got. So one of my responses was, the one who apologizes and never changes, and this is on X, the one who apologizes and never changes, at least you know what you're getting from an avoidant. The gaslighting for a better future? Nah. So, in other words, and this is from Ms. Caitlin Brooks, in other words, even if the person doesn't apologize, right, you at least know what you're dealing with. You're dealing with somebody who's not going to apologize. But if you have someone who says, yeah, I'm sorry, and then they repeatedly do the thing that they had to apologize for, then you know they full of shit and they ain't really mean what they said. Um, Someone else says, I'd say someone who apologizes and never changes, especially if they aren't even trying. If they are trying, that's definitely different, but super hard in its own way. But if they aren't trying, I think the apology is probably manipulation, just another way to keep a hold on someone without caring for them. And I want you to know that that became like a theme. Another one of my friends says, never changes because apologies without changed behavior is just manipulation, whereas no answer is absolutely an answer. I agree. I agree. So, Jason, what does Jason say? Jason, I can always count on Jason for chat. Someone that never changes their behavior and says they apologize but don't really mean it. Yeah, I'm with the sad face on that too, Jason. I don't know. And let me ask you, is refusing to apologize about ego or control? Which then goes back to what we got about manipulation, right? We've got folks who say, yay, who just, I just read you these posts where they talked about um, not apologizing, or rather, the apology with no change is manipulation. I think that's a thing. I think that's a real thing. So I'm going to leave that up to you all. Please continue to respond, post. Let me know what you think, whether it's on my socials or whether it's on YouTube or X. I want to know. What do you think? Is it a red flag if someone never apologizes even when they're wrong? And which is worse, someone who never apologizes, or someone who apologizes and doesn't change their behavior? Let me know what you think. In the meantime, I'm going to run a quick promo before I go into the next segment. And let me just tease that off a little bit for you. Because now that we've had this conversation about apologies and the manipulation and whether or not there's any ego involved, we're about to switch over to another conversation that is a lot comes down to ego and respect. And speaking of ego, when we talk about that, these two gentlemen coming up in the next segment, there is a lot of ego, but I'm not sure there's any respect. So hold on, we'll be right back. Okay. And we're back. All right. So this is the question for this segment. Who's winning the beef? T.I. over here or 50 over here? And I love the fact that this is my show and I can grab whatever the hell picture I want. And so clearly they're both much younger in these two pictures. And I'm okay with that. But here's the thing. As I said, these two, they've been going at it on the internet. And I guess they felt like we all needed to decide whether or not 50 or T.I. is the better rapper. And this is what I don't know. I've been struggling to wrap my mind around it, right? Like, I needed to know who started it, how it got started. And then this idea of, is this like for real, or is this entertainment? Are they being silly? I mean, 50 is an incredible marketer. So, is he leaning into this just for the marketing of it? Because, bad publicity is still publicity. So what is this all about? And then let's just be honest. These two were very, very powerful men. Why are we doing this? Like, what is this all about? What do we gain from this fight? So I needed to, because I didn't even realize this was an issue. This was shared with me. I needed to do a little history. I needed to know more about this fight. I needed to understand why all of a sudden are we fighting this hard? Like, I'm talking T.I. and 50, that's one thing. But T.I. and his three sons all are creating diss tracks. And I said three, right? So King and Domani, we've seen those. But then there was one that creeped up on me yesterday, which is a son, his oldest child, by the name of Buddy Red. And Buddy Red, if you don't know Buddy Red, because I didn't know about Buddy Red until I just found out yesterday, but Buddy Red gives you a very Lenny Kravitz vibe. So the track he created was very reminiscent of a Lenny Kravitz track, and I was like, oh, okay. So they really meant all of this that they said. So let me give you a quick 30-40 second rundown on what's going on for those of you who want to know, right? Back in 2007, 50 took a subtle jab at T.I.'s King of the South title during a radio interview, basically saying nobody can crown themselves king of hip hop. Then in 2008, 50 questioned T.I.'s gun case in a song, which led to tension between them. In 2011, the situation heated up again when 50 commented on T.I.'s legal troubles and his wife, Tiny. T.I. defended his family publicly, but the two eventually squashed the issue with a phone call. Now, you might be wondering about this issue with Tiny. In this instance, 50's comment was to basically assert the idea that rather than T.I. take another gun charge after having already spent time in prison, his wife should have took the charge because, she didn't really have a record and therefore it would be light on her. Now, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but Casey don't give a fuck. But that's very like New York hip hop culture, this idea that your woman is going to take the charge so that you don't get into further trouble or any trouble or whatever the case is. That's a whole nother topic. I don't even know how I feel about that. Wait, hold on. I got a friend here chiming in. Got to give it to 50. Anyone who puts a song about you on their show, petty, smart, and money making. All right, so one for 50. Fast forward to 2020 when T.I. repeatedly challenged 50 to a versus battle. 50 mostly laughed it off and refused to participate. Now, excuse me. Now we're going to jump to where we are right now. February 2026. T.I. said on Shannon Sharp's Nightcap podcast that 50 was ducking smoke. That kicked everything off. Since then, T.I. has dropped multiple diss tracks, while 50 has mostly responded with social media trolling and a few musical shots of his own. Now, this is information I pulled just prior to 50's release of the Power Origins theme song, which takes shots at T.I. and his sons. So like I said, the real question now is, are we watching a rap battle or just two legends arguing online? Okay, now, you might say, okay, this is just T.I. and 50, right? I popped open Instagram a little while ago, before, getting preparation for the show. I see a post that's Busta Rhymes basically calling T.I. out. So I had to do a quick search on that because I'm like, wait, hold on. Where did that come from? And apparently, in case y'all didn't know, there's a little beef between T.I. and Busta, basically over this same issue of verses. So apparently, for all the verses we saw in 2020, there were several that were just going back and forth in the air that never went down. And apparently Busta Rhymes and T.I. was one of them. Now, here's what I find interesting. T.I. has been going hard at 50. We've all seen it. Messy. As Ella said, 50 finally turned his into a into a theme song for the next iteration of Power. But with respect to Busta, he was like, I'm not even going to touch that. You and I have different audiences, different generations. With all due respect, I'm not gonna do it. Now, how does Busta get all due respect and 50 don't get shit? I don't know. I don't know. I definitely want to know what y'all think because I don't think this is going to die anytime soon. I think we'll be hearing about this. I think because, normally for those of us from New York, we're used to East Coast, West Coast rap situations. We are now talking East Coast Dirty South. And I'm curious to see where this is going to go. Because let me say this. In my preparation for the show, I found myself listening to a lot of T.I. because I wasn't necessarily a fan of T.I.'s music. I'm a New Yorker. That 50 would have been my choice. And so therefore, that being said, I'm gonna preface what I'm about to say next by saying, champ, please don't revoke my New Yorker card when I say what I'm about to say. But I listened to all of the diss tracks coming from T.I., coming from his sons. I kind of liked them a little better. Now, to my friend's point, yeah, 50's gonna get paid because his is a theme song to one of his shows. But when I was listening to the lyrics for the ones that T.I. and his sons did, yeah, they were quite clever. Sorry, champ. Don't take my New Yorker card. Please, don't take my New Yorker card. But please, by all means, let me know what you think. Get up in my chat. Say something. Let me know. Because like I said, I don't think this is going away anytime soon. No time soon. Especially, 50's throwing out stuff about allegations about T.I. and Tiny way back. And just to be clear, in one of the lines in 50's diss track, he makes reference to T.I. having Tiny eating boxes all over Atlanta. I'm gonna let y'all who don't know what a box is in terms of eating, I'm gonna let y'all work on figuring that part out. But if you don't know, allegedly, T.I. and Tiny have been accused of sexual abuse, drugging, and trafficking. Never been charged, but apparently these allegations have been ongoing and won't seem to go away. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what you think. So, like I said, let me know. Let's see what happens next. Next segment, we're going to talk about this pink pill. And I just want to know, as it relates to Viagra, its acceptance, the acceptance of the reason Viagra exists. Are we okay with the fact that women can't seem to get a supplement the way men can? And from what I understand, in the time it took to bring this even to market, there were, I think, 24 medications for men's sexual health that came flying through. Anybody? Nothing? No? Crickets? All right, well then when we come back, we're going to talk about that. I'll see you in a second. All right. So, if you are not familiar with Exxxotica, you're about to get familiar with Exxxotica. It is the largest convention about love and sex. I said that. It's the largest in the country. And they meet 4 times a year. Chicago will be April 10th through 12th. Minneapolis, first time in Minneapolis. Pray for us, y'all. June 26th through 28th. New Jersey, which is the biggest of the 4. If you want to have a hella good time, definitely come to Jersey because sometimes folks show up. like T.I. and Tiny, or 50, or you just never know. I've seen quite a few people in some of these places. But New Jersey is October 23rd through the 25th, and Miami this year is in December, the 4th through the 6th. Now, if you know anything about Miami in December, that first weekend, it is also Art Basel. It is going to be a very, very, very poppin' weekend in Miami. And for those of you who make Art Basel every year, I highly recommend you come through and check us out. It's going to be a different experience for sure.
Watch Casey Carter and her co-host, Carrie Anthony and Desiree on Exotica TV's BoobTube, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on YouTube and Twitter at Exotica TV. Join the ladies each week as they talk about what's hot and what's not on TV, streaming, and in theaters. Don't miss them and Jay, the man behind the sound effects. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on Exotica TV. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm sorry. I love that line. I love that what could possibly go wrong line. Mm. All right, so let's get into this. There's a documentary on Paramount Plus called The Pink Pill. First of all, I literally just found out about this over the weekend. And The Pink Pill tells the story of a woman named Cindy Eckert who spent years fighting to get a drug approved that treats low sexual desire in women. So now, remember, Viagra is supposed to help men achieve erection, hold erection, and achieve it however, whenever they need it. The opposite, or dare I say equivalent issue for women is more mental than physical. And so women at a certain point, or just like men, could be early in life, have moments where they have low to no sexual desire. Now, in an effort to find some sort of resolution or solution to this pill had been developed. And let me say this. Viagra, I don't care what anybody tells you, was not developed specifically to address male erectile dysfunction. It was not. That is not why it was created. It was actually a side effect to a drug they were testing for high blood pressure. Yeah. Can you imagine that? Taking a medication to address your high blood pressure only to have it cause an erection, which could probably elevate your blood pressure even more. But yeah, don't ever let anybody tell you that is exactly what it was created for. That is not. It was a side effect, and they took it and they ran with it. And let me say this, the FDA rejected the pink pill multiple times. One of the times they rejected the pink pill, it was to say that the side effects were too extreme. One of them being that it could cause sleepiness, even though the instructions were to take it at bedtime. The other side effect that affected its ability to be approved was that you can't, there may be interactions between the drugs and alcohol. Now, let us be honest, people. If you read the warning labels on many of the drugs you take, you're going to read those same warnings. You're going to see the warning about it causing sleepiness. You're going to see the warning about its effect with alcohol. As a matter of fact, Viagra specifically tells you to have a minimum number of drinks. I think it's either a minimum number of drinks or that you probably shouldn't drink while taking the drug. Now, in the research, it literally said no more than 5 drinks. Don't have more than 5 drinks if you take this pill. Now, let's think about this. If you have 5 drinks and you take the pill's probably not going to work because you've had 5 drinks. Like, The alcohol all by itself affects your ability to stay erect, get erect, what have you. So, 5 drinks definitely could have a counter effect to the Viagra. But for women, they did not think it was a good idea at all. At all. As a matter of fact, when they finally ultimately did give this drug approval, they created a black box warning. Now, most of us probably have no idea what a black box warning is. It is those same concerns or cautions put into a literal black box. Apparently, that is the worst thing you can get if you get your drug approved, is to have a black box warning on it. Like I said, though, this warning for this can be found on multiple medications. I guarantee you, if you pulled out your cold medication right now, it probably says may cause drowsiness. It probably will advise you not to have alcohol or not to drink and take the medication and drive. That is stuff we buy, and that's not even the drugs, the drugstore medications that they lock down. I'm talking the regular over the counter, you can pick it up off the shelf stuff. They all say it. Why did they do this to the pink pill? I don't understand. Okay, I'm sorry. I get very heated about this. So let me ask you this question, y'all. I know you already have heard of Viagra, but prior to me mentioning it right here, right now, had you ever heard of the pink pill or its commercial name, which is actually called Addyi? Oh, and listen, here's the story behind the name Addyi, which is spelled Addyi. Addyi, its commercial name, is named after Addison on Grey's Anatomy, the redheaded doctor. Watch the documentary. That was probably the one moment I was like, really, girl? Really? Okay, fine, whatever. But, these are the questions I want to ask you. Is low libido a real medical issue? And why is men's sexuality treated different than women? And is society uncomfortable with women openly wanting sex? Now, I want you to also think about this. We know that women, when they have issues with their reproductive system, have a hysterectomy. And we also know that back in the day, women used to be treated for hysteria, right? If you know anything about women being treated for hysteria, you know that they were using dildos on some of these women to treat them for hysteria. Doesn't it sound like hysteria might have been some sort of a sexual issue for women? And I don't even like the idea that you use the word hysteria as a medical condition, or that the word for the removal of some or all of the female's reproductive organs as hysterectomy. Because the other word very similar to hysterectomy, is hysterical. And it is also a word often used to refer to women. You see where I'm going with this? Is this all coming together for you? Hello, is this thing on? I don't understand. I'm going to need y'all to help me to understand, because if you think about this and look back on women's sexuality throughout history, there are things now that still are on people's law books that say that women, or treat women, I should say, as possession more than as them being their own person. And so the idea that a man or someone without a uterus can dictate how a woman treats her body is absolutely insane to me. Absolutely insane. And more importantly, what I find even more insane are the women who buy into this. So when I was watching the program and they were at the FDA the multiple times they went, you had all these women who talked about their experience with low sexual desire, how it affected them in their marriage, how it affected their self-esteem. And then they talked to women who had the ability to do the clinical trials with the pink pill, and how their whole experience changed, how they were now more interested in sex. One woman, one man said that his wife was like physically attacking him when he would come into the house. Um, and that same confidence transcended into their everyday experience, into their everyday life. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that if a woman is in tune to her sexuality, is able to express her sexuality, is able to allow her freak flag to fly, whatever that may look like, I do see how that confidence transcends into their everyday. Being able to say, this is what I like in the bedroom, and being able to make it a requirement allows you to have a confidence that when you are out in just your everyday life, you're going to ask for and require those things that are good for you. So I got to wonder, why don't you want us to express our sexuality? I'm going to ask again. Why are you so afraid of a woman who's comfortable in her sexuality? I can't hear you. Let's be honest. It's all about control and power. It is. Because at the end of the day, if you know who you are, can keep us docile, can keep us feeling as if we are a problem, as if it's not that there's something that can be done for it, that if we can be kept in our place, we won't be a problem. We're a problem in and out of this situation. I just want you to know. Again, let us get that pill, okay? Because what I didn't mention is when it did get approved that first time and that black box warning, they also made it a requirement that doctors had to take a test in order to prescribe it, that pharmacists had to take a test in order to fill those prescriptions. And then the company that bought Cindy's little small company in North Carolina, this big conglomerate that bought them in order to help them bring the pill to market, then decided to take it from being something that was $25 a day, $25 a month to like $800 a month. So basically what y'all were saying was, oh, wait a minute, I just had this revelation. This kind of goes along with where we started the show. The idea of, I'm going to give you an apology and I'm not going to change my behavior, because it ends up being manipulative, right? So here's what the FDA did. They approved it, and then they made it difficult to get. So not only did it become like a joke that they approved it, and now women can line up to get it, they were like, okay, first we're going to make your doctor have to know how to give it. Then we're going to make the pharmacist have to know how to give it. Then we're going to overcharge you for it. Guess what? Nobody was able to get it. And then the company who bought the company who brought it to market, they had to get rid of the CEO who signed the initial contract with the small company out of North Carolina. And then when they got the new CEO, he had a meeting with Cindy, and Cindy was like, give it back. And he said, no. And Cindy said, well, guess what? You are actually in breach of contract. There's a whole lot of shit you were supposed to do and you didn't do. So I'm going to give you a choice. Give it back or let's go to court. Guess what they did? They gave it back free of charge. No money whatsoever. And so now the pink pill is supposed to be available. So if any of y'all out there are taking the pink pill, please let me know. I want to know how it works for you. But again, this is crazy, right? Because you had a guy buy it from this woman so that he could help her bring it to market, and then he didn't. And then when he was gone and she said, hey, give it back, I'll do it my damn self. That's how this all got started. They were like, not gonna happen. Moral of the story, you gotta get your shit however you gotta get your shit. Okay? You cannot let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. You cannot let anybody tell you that your sexuality is a fantasy. It ain't really a problem. And you certainly, for damn sure, can't let somebody tell you what you can and can't do with your body. That's all I'm saying. And I'm going to stand on that real hard, real tall, real firm. I believe that every single day of the week. I've actually talked about this particular topic before. I can't remember how far back I did, but I talked about this before. I am very, very dead ass serious when it comes to women and women's sexuality and the fact that it gets ignored, treated like it doesn't exist, or treated like we shouldn't have a sexual desire, that our sexual desire is dictated by some man who, truth be told, probably will go somewhere else with his little purple pill, his little blue pill, his little whatever pill. All right, I'll get off the soapbox now. Sorry. That one, that one just gets me every time. All right, let me wrap this up with this pink pill because I could go on for days about this pink pill. So here's the thing. Whether you believe the medication was necessary or not, the bigger question is hard to ignore. The bigger question is, for decades, the world refused to solve problems the world rushed to solve problems connected to male sexuality. But when it shifted to women, they refused to even discuss it. It wasn't even a topic that they wanted to explore. So maybe the real question isn't about the pill. Maybe the real question is whether society is ready to acknowledge that women's sexuality matters too. How about that? And that's definitely a conversation worth having at the grown folks table. For sure. Because I don't know about you. I like being at the grown folks table. And let me tell you where I got this idea from. Remember when we were growing up? And it was always Thanksgiving, right? Like everybody's Thanksgiving, there was a grown folks table, there was a kids table. I remember when I got to be old enough to sit at the grown folks table. The things talked about at the grown folks table versus the stupid shit we talked about at the kids table. Oh my God. I remember teaching myself to be a fly on the wall just so that I could keep my spot at the grown folks table. The things they said, the things they did, it was amazing, the energy. And I want to thank all of you because the energy I saw from you on social media is exactly what I remember from when I was a kid, cuddling up to the table and just sort of listening at the grown folks talk about the stuff the grown folks talk about. So thank you. I really appreciate you joining me on this journey because like I said, Casey at Night, it had a very interesting beginning and I absolutely adored it. We talked about things like the pink pill and we talked about women's sexuality. We talked about men's sexuality. We talked about what these things mean in our relationships and how they matter and how we should care about those things for one another. So thank you so much for being a part of that, being a part of that history and now being a part of this current history. It means a lot to me. And I definitely hope you continue coming. So as always, tonight's conversation proves something I always say. We don't always have to agree, but we should definitely be talking about these things. Whether we're discussing apologies in relationships, hip hop rivalries, or the complicated conversation around women's sexuality, the point isn't always to reach the same conclusion. The point is to listen, think, and maybe leave the table with a perspective you didn't have when you sat down. And that's what makes this place special. So thank you for sitting with me and holding space with me. This has been Casey at Night, and this is the Grown Folks Table. Hey, I am technically still here. I just wanted to have a few more words with you to just kind of sort of, again, thank you for joining me tonight. This is going to be an evolving experience, and part of that is having you with me. This is something I've never done before. I typically run the outro and the show ends, but we're going to try something a little different. So again, I want to thank you for sitting in this space with me tonight. I always love and appreciate having honest conversation and different perspectives from those who join the chat here live, or whether you've joined my chat on social. It means a lot. But before we officially call it a night, I want to know what's something that you're going to take away from tonight's show. Um, whether it's regarding apologies, the pink pill and women's sexuality, or whether you have an opinion about who's winning the battle between 50 and T.I. I definitely want to know where you stand. Because, like I said, my folks, when it came to that apology thing, man, like everything, it just, all my socials blew up with comments about that. Um, sorry about that. Let me see. I just want to share a few more that came in. Let me, because this was a very powerful conversation. Um, very powerful conversation. There was so many comments. Hold on. So I had this one comment from a gentleman by the name of Commander. It says, let me ask you a question. Is it a red flag to expect an apology from someone you know that has historically no accountability? Let's be honest. The signs were there, but at times we take it as giving that person grace. If they can't apologize, then that's not a person you would want in your circle. That's a short-sighted person with bad attitude. Now, I think Commander's point was, we tend to see people show you who they are, and so we see these things in people, and we, like he said, we give them grace. We give them a chance that maybe that was a moment, maybe that just was a isolated incident. But do we really need to stick around and wait for them to do these things repeatedly? So I thanked Commander and asked him this statement. What if you're in the early stages of getting to know someone, and this is where you begin to see the signs, but you think, I don't really know them, and they don't really know me. Let me give it a little more time. And here's his very honest answer. And I'm gonna be real. I absolutely loved it, because I think his honest answer is really an honest answer for all of us. He says, honestly, I'm tainted. Prior experiences have me, sorry about that. Prior experiences have me seeing signs. And we all have that inner voice, gut feeling that never fails. So I always listen and trust it. I'm too long in the tooth to allow something like that to continue to be in my circle. I understand giving someone a chance, but if I see this happening often in different situations, then I have to remove myself. No apologies, but best protection you can ever have is yourself. Absolutely loved that response because, like I said, when he made it a point of saying, I'm tainted, he basically spoke for the rest of us. We judge people we deal with today based on relationships we've had in the past. We don't even see ourselves for who we are today as a result of who we dealt with in the past. So I thought that was a it was a fantastic response to the question and a very honest response as to why we may feel the way we feel in the moment. So thanks, Commander. Hope you were watching. And again, I want to thank you all for watching tonight. I want to thank you for coming to the table, whether it was here with me live, whether it's in the replay, or whether it was on social. It meant a lot. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again. So I'll see you next week at the Grown Folks table. Bye.